really hard for NaJin.
Yeah, their hopes of getting picks completely rely on just monopolizing vision around the map, denying that vision with the likes of sweepers, and setting up around objectives. And if any of those variables fall down, so will their comp.
Yeah, well, KOO Tigers, they have some strong lanes here. They're going to be feeling good about how this game is going. They should be very safe in the early game. They have some nice kill pressure onto the Rumble on the top side. They have an advantageous matchup in the Kog'Maw Braum on the bottom side, and Lulu just sit there wave clearing. They can easily just hold out until the late game where Prey's Juggermaw will be unstoppable. The KOO Tigers, a team that really know how to use this composition. We'll see if they can pull it off one more time. First time they've tried it in a while. Let's get into game 3. Well, possibly playoff seeds on the line in this game, depending on how the rest of this season pans out. KOO Tigers trying to struggle their way up the ladder, trying to take that number 2 seed, which is still well within their grasp. NaJin attempting to even make it squeak into the playoffs at number 6. Prey gonna pop a ward in there. Fool me once, shame on me.
Instantly cleared this time.
Or fool me once, shame on you. Excuse me. Wow, I messed that up. Exactly the opposite, Papa Smithy.
I didn't even call you on it. I was going to leave it to you, Monty, just like when I was talking about that Olaf thing before.
You'll call me out on it like a year later. All right.
I play the long game. So KOO have a big advantage in the mid lane. We were watching the pool party Lulu skin earlier. It's completely adorable. So when it comes to that, they certainly have a right advantage in the mid lane. Just watching going. He's considering a late invade. Now just warding down. Of course, Maokai probably setting up his saplings very shortly. Looks like they're going to get that early little bit of experience that honestly can tip mid lane matchups from time to time.
Yep. Certainly nice to have it at the very least. And we are going to have a lane swap. So NaJin saw the ward go into the brush, and they're going to opt out of the 2v2, something that we don't really see from NaJin that often. If you see a ward going down in a brush like that, you can pretty much be guaranteed that it was the AD carry putting it down. So with that information, they're going to choose to swap around. And now the top lane, controlled by KOO, freezes from our teams coming in. And Pure actually just going to fast push this with the help of OQ. Interesting, not something we see very often. So the response to seeing this is that Gorilla is going to immediately recall so that Smeb can get a quick TP or even just walk into this bottom side safely. So there we go, already coming through, and KOO doesn't have to worry about a dive. They know that nobody's in their bottom side jungle, so very safe play.
But the big reason that KOO is making these rotations around the bottom lane, the reason why they want 2 members on the bottom side of the map is that if vertical jungling, which would have naturally meant that there would be more members of NaJin on the bottom side of the map and thus likely led to dragon control, had extended, the dragon is the real win condition here for NaJin. They have the rumble, they have the earlier power specs, they want to play around that objective. So sending multiple members down bot for KOO at least eliminates any hope for that 6-7 minute dragon sneak to really get NaJin rolling with this dragon-centric comp.
Yeah, it could have presented a lot of problems, but it's not, especially now that it's going to be a 2v1 in this bottom side. We do see that Pure just trying to harass early on as Wisdom took his blue buff and then wanted to make a play for the Rift Scuttler. So they're trying to defend Rumble, and this is what we didn't see happen in the last game from KOO. As Rumble pushes up, they want to get that vision advantage, make it as safe as they can. And now Wisdom is going to come around to the lane to try and give Prey a little bit of a helping hand with 3 NaJin members up in the top lane.
Still really weird to see a team on the red side play so much around the top to try and force a counter swap to just really try and change things. Maybe they just want to re-solidify that ball lane.
Okay.
There's the stun.
And there's the Ignite going down too. They're going to flash forward for this. Kuro not quite going to get the kill. A little bit awkward. 2 Ignites looks like they were used at the same time. So stacking those Ignites and wasting a summoner spell right there. This is kind of the weird execution that we see from the KOO Tigers from time to time. Lack of coordination, and that means that they do not make the most out of that kill.
get a good shot time, 25 to 17 CS, but only a non-magic mantle, so not able to get a lot of big combat stats as far as we can see. Yeah, just vision after that. So actually the mana regen, so therefore offensive capability advantage in the mid lane goes to KOO.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, obviously no first blood, a result, so a very just slim advantage. KOO did have to burn both summoner spells. But now Gorilla may not have all the tools he needs if there were to be a gank, if NaJin wants to push forward in that top side. Meanwhile, KOO just happily sitting next to his turret right now. And OQ coming up with a pretty big CS lead, actually.
I think this is actually really smart play from NaJin. So what they've forced is the counter swap. So now we're seeing the bot lane up the top for KOO. So they've effectively lane swapped themselves. Now we have Sivir versus Maokai in the bottom lane. Of course, Sivir's going to have that instant wave clear. They now have a large black area around Dragon, especially when the latest vision starts to go away. And maybe they can get that Dragon control that they really so desperately want.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to see where Gorilla's going on the map this game because he's been all over the place.
It's unchained.
Yeah, he is. Gorilla is unchained this game. Prey just sitting up mostly by his lonesome in top, and this is where Prey sometimes starts to get behind in CS. He's had to deal with 3 people. He's been denied in the top side, and that came at the expense of that gank in mid lane, but without actually a kill, it was a lot of resources lost, and NaJin ended up with the better end of that deal when you consider everything going on. They're going to try and take the long way around here, but they don't have an Ignite.
A lot of damage and CC potentially coming through. Of course, on-hit effects being applied by the Ravage. Evelyn Duke spotted this.
And they're going in on Lulu actually in the mid side, so KOO in a lot of danger, and First Blood actually passed over to Watch.
He was so trained on following KOO's rotation that we completely missed NaJin playing around mid, taking out KOO. Nice movements by NaJin.
Yep, just 3 people in that mid lane. They got the catch they needed. They had the flash available from Pure. Probably was just a flash play into a flash knockup from Watch to set that up, and no summoners and no wild growth from KOO. Turn that into a kill. Pure wants to play aggressively. They force the flash from Smeb.
One place where Thresh may have ascendancy over the Braum. The Braum is a very strong early roamer. Gorilla has been unchained like we said, but you know, when we're talking about what lane swaps provide is it allows these supports to really be freed up to impact lanes. You feel like Thresh with his 3 abilities just that much more reliable, and especially at helping the jungler get involved in a skirmish, and it proved true in the mid lane.
Yeah, we may see a dive now in top, playing around Duke. The Evelyn is there. They know they need to do something right now to get themselves back into this game, but everyone just going to recall, and we're going to return to standard lanes. So take a look at this. There is the Flash Winter's Bite, but
the auto attack cancel from Prey could potentially have been massive there, and so much expense. Look at those flashes. 4 flashes basically used in unison.
That is such a huge investment. Smeb obviously had to use his to avoid the play being made on the bottom side of the map, but NaJin now has so many different choices they can make. OQ still has his flash against 2 flashless duo laners in the bottom side as they return to that lane, so KOO having a lot of execution issues early in this one.
Who's going to rotate first? We might see a lot of action around this red buff, but no, everyone backs away. We're trying to contest the objective there. Up in top, it's one of the rare times that Rumble has actually really ascended in this matchup against Maokai. 15 CS ahead, has his really early core in the Haunting guys. Okay, not really kill pressure yet, but Rumble versus Maokai, for once, tipping towards the Yordle.
Yeah, it is. And that's allowing him to play further up in the lane. Wisdom now trying to clear out some of these wards. Before we saw KOO swap back into the bottom side, Watch was able to put in a bunch of wards around those objectives. He's now just going to get the red buff for free. Looks like Wisdom going to have to go into top side of enemy jungle to steal the red in turn, just smartly giving that one up. Not wanting to fight right now when his team is behind on summoner spells.
He's playing around the vision that he has. Okay, now Duke spots the fact that blue buff is up, so potential 2 buffs being contested by NaJin. Who's on the invade? Evelyn's a little bit precarious here and has to back away from the red.
Yeah, Duke.
No flash.
Ooh, nice dodge. Fancy footwork from Wisdom's Evelyn, but Duke still playing very well around his team's power this game. We saw him drop down into the river when that big gank attempt came through from KOO, and now just going back to protect his red buff. He pushed up, had the time in order to do that. So great map sense from Duke, not something that we normally see from this player.
And he's had to have great map sense because he's been playing aggressively despite having no defensive vision on the top side of the map at all. They only had the aggressive vision on the enemy red, so for a time they had a good understanding of where Evelyn was, but apart from that, just really had his top lane sense to understand where the jungle was at, and in this case, on point.
Definitely was. So Prey, he needs to keep on farming down here, but he's also fallen behind in terms of CS, so he will be delayed on that Trinity Force pickup. Wisdom still lurking now, trying to find something here on the bottom side, but instead just has to go back and do the Krugs.
Man, this really feels like we're back to Season 1. So it's the Juggernaut, which is already, of course, not Season 1, I say Season 1 of this season. So Spring Split is what I'm trying to say, but we're going back to Spring Split because the Juggernaut's back. They're losing the early game here at KOO in every lane. They're setting themselves up for a very big late game with the team comp they've chosen, but this is kind of the trademark KOO where they really have to work against adversity rather than get any sort of an early snowball that they were really managing the last month or so.
Oh, man, they were just so close to executing some of these plays too. Both the mid lane gank and the top lane gank failing by the smallest of margins, really. And that auto attack animation started. If he had gotten just the Bioarcane barrage off and kept that distance, then would have been stunned to the top side, and then Goong nearly going down in the mid lane, but overcommitting. And now the dragons start to come through for NaJin EM Fire. That is going to be highly useful. Again, another early dragon in this game. They're going to start the clock on the 5 dragon very quickly. And now they have the first dragon at 11 minutes. They have a 2K gold lead. And that's dangerous, very dangerous right now for the KOO Tigers. Even though they have the better late game composition, the timer has started for them.
The game, what will it look like at 40 minutes is the big question is now presented because, of course, the 5th dragon going to be around the 35 to 40 minute mark. Watch takes the Winter's Bite, but is able to get away. I mean, the big thing for NaJin, the big thing for playing against a Juggernaut comp is if you can break the base, certainly there are a lot of options for you in the late game. But if they can just hold on to their turrets, power up, of course, quite a cheap build going to be coming through from both the Lulu and Maokai in terms of teamfight readiness, and then just wait out those item timings on Prey, Juggernaut is always relevant.
Yeah, that is very true. And the siege here is just so good from the KOO Tigers. With that, they have decent wave clear from NaJin for sure, but again, yeah, the relevance, the eternal relevance of the Kog'Maw in the late game with the Juggernaut is just one of the strongest compositions in the game if you can get it there, if you can get it to work. So Wisdom will be seen here from Watch, who's been doing a very good job in this series of just keeping control of the enemy jungle to his credit, and he's just going to keep on preventing Wisdom from actually doing these Raptors. He doesn't have Smite up, so he can't really contest it, but he does force Kuro out of lane.
The ones on the other side of this matchup is Watch. Of course, so frequently he's been the Evelyn who has to deal with the fact that Rek'Sai has that tremor sense. He's been the one that's had to deal with one of his lanes not having pressure and just being invaded on as the Evelyn. Finally, the shoe is on the other foot, and it's good to see that Watch can play that aggressive style as well.
Yes, so Smeb and Duke here. Still not too much of a difference. Smeb just catching up in terms of his CS, so not so far behind. Goong actually getting harassed there. Nice glitter lance to secure the ward kill, and Watch just zooming into the Raptor pit, but no real play onto the mid lane.
Love the topside warding that's come through from NaJin. Ward those camps. That's the only way that you can make the green wards work against Evelyn, and they've had near complete vision. Remember, we already saw Wisdom clear a ward at the Krugs. Now he goes to the top side of the map. No coincidence that all his buffs are warded.
Yep. It's just been such a great warding series. Last couple of games. Oh, there's a Glacial Fissure going down. OQ getting Prey very low on an all-in. Looks like a hook may have found Prey underneath the turret and triggered that attempt. Wisdom's here, but he's getting tied up by Watch actually in the tri-brush. Pure will be slowed down with the help of those concussive blows. Prey is low, but Prey does have Summoner heal. Here comes the TPs. They're going to try and make a play. Prey pops the heal. He's going to kite this one out. There's a hook on the Gorilla. There's the Equalizer coming in, but it doesn't really hit anybody. Smeb is now here too. They are going deep, but the turret is down, and now Smeb gets bounced out. Goong with the ultimate. Wild Growth is there, and Kuro going for it. Can't quite get the kill, and Prey dies on the bottom side. Somehow to OQ, but a trade as the Ignite ticks away onto Goong. Still though, Tower, a couple of kills and trade for just one, and a lot of summoners used once again by the Tigers.
And you're just opting into fights, unfortunately, KOO. In fact, NaJin forcing fights before all those timings are hit. The Juggernaut is a comp that requires specific timings, but Rumble, first to react, very nice Equalizer. Watch escapes on just a slither of health. Speaking of slithers, we're going to see a lot of very close calls in this fight.
Yeah, OQ just flashing forward with the Boomerang Blade to keep it out. No peel remaining to punish OQ for the aggressive flash. So he does end up getting away with it and with that kill. So only a single kill there, and it's on to Lulu. Not exactly the best target, and that will increase NaJin's gold lead to about 3,000. Dangerous times for the Tigers.
Finally, some items being hit. Righteous Glory was picked up. Athene's also finished. Crucially, Trinity Force not done. And at 15 minutes, starting to shape as quite a late Trinity Force. Able to go OQ. The Berserker's Greaves, the flat AD building to the Infinity Edge, and the Avarice Blade. So I have to think that gold is starting to grow and grow between the AD carries.
And when you're so reliant on this Kog'Maw for damage, that is not a great place to be in. Smeb just going to pop his ultimate to clear the wave. And Prey trying to find some CS where he can on the map. They flipped him into the top side now that there's no dragon to actually contest. And Smeb gonna go hungry for a little bit. He is now just changing lanes so that Prey can absorb all of this farm because they know they need him to be relevant.
Swapping around the Kog'Maw is a prerequisite for the Juggernaut comp. If he's not damage relevant, he doesn't hit his timings, the team comp just doesn't function as, the death sentence just goes wide onto Wisdom.
Yeah, tried to Lantern, watch in there, but there just wasn't any kind of summoner spells to use to actually secure a kill. And now we're back to standard lanes as Kog'Maw comes up into mid to help out clear these waves and try and start to group. If they can get a couple towers, the KOO Tigers will be in a good place to get back into this. But against the wave clear seems unlikely.
Yeah, it's just no way to do it, Monte Cristo. This is a win for NaJin if they're forcing Kog'Maw to abandon deep freezing a minion wave and picking up CS and force the Juggernaut comp to make the aggressive moves around second Dragon Timer. Already NaJin's really got into the headspace of the Juggernaut comp that just wants to be pushing as much farm and levels as possible onto Prey.
That said, if they can get this dragon and extend the game as a result, they will be in a good position.
They've already leashed it.
It's risky.
Azir's not there though.
Yeah, no Azir, so actually KOO going to get away with this. Even Prey, they back up. I think they could have finished that for sure.
Sense spotted them out, but would have spotted the defense. Would they have gone for a rash 4v5 fight there, NaJin? We'll never know, as KOO made the really defensive play.
Yeah, they did, and starting to leash that, and they just are kind of aimlessly wandering around the map right now. Prey went down to the bottom side to try and move this minion wave and make it reverse direction so they could actually get some pressure, but now they have to return into mid. And when they had that 4v5 and they had the angle, I mean, right there, they could have just taken the dragon and then dropped down into the bottom lane. So still a lot of gold onto this Lulu that has been unspent. OQ takes the time to just get out. At the very least, delaying the dragon is okay, if still not ideal for the Tigers.
And NaJin, they get a free shop onto OQ. He was sitting on 1550 gold, finishes the Infinity Edge. The power difference between these two AD carries, it is that 1500 gold. It translates into a whole lot of power for OQ.
Yeah, it does, and they still need to shop onto Kuro, who's in a similar gold situation. So that is going to prompt the dragon. It was delayed by a minute or two, but that's still not... Oh, I don't know if they can go on to this. This is extremely risky. Kog'Maw and Evelyn still are not there.
NaJin burning it down to 1,000 health. KOO just give up in any hopes. Maybe they can push down the mid lane and get that turret you spoke about before. They're out of position, but that turret is so damn healthy.
Yeah, nearly 100% HP. KOO they have to go back and have this Lulu shop right now if they want to have any kind of magic damage. Of course, big waves developing in the side lanes, so that kind of control will cause some minions lost from NaJin, at least in top side. OQ will pick up absolutely everything.
Avarice Blade.
Yeah, it's a lot of extra money.
Investment banker Siva really needs to give some advice to this Kog'Maw because she's found so much gold.
Her return is so much better right now. But she's a person, and Kog'Maw is just a void for him. I don't think he has any need for investments.
Did he miss the financial accounting 101?
Uh-oh. Righteous Glory on a Duke now in top lane. Wisdom here. They want to turn this around. There's the Evelynn ultimate. Not sure they have the damage to actually follow up on this, and the answer is no. No, that is a terrible flash. Miscommunication from the Tigers on whether they were going in, and that's going to cost them a mid lane turret and a tier 2 turret. Man, KOO just falling apart this game.
And NaJin in that must win. It was looking forlorn after the game 1, but wow, what a turnaround. And KOO, they're just kind of folding like a pack of cards.
I don't know what is happening right now. KOO used to have this bad habit where if they got behind, Hojin would just gank top lane, whether there was a kill possible or not. And it's weird to me that Wisdom would do the same thing. Obviously different players, but perhaps it's Smeb who starts calling these plays at the top side when things start to go poorly. But you lost 2 towers because you couldn't maintain any kind of control once you showed your jungler for absolutely nothing.
Yeah, the traditional Juggernaut comps, it was usually the Nunu jungle that, of course, usually had some semblance of control, given that he was just had a strong penchant for counter jungling. Evelynn versus Rek'Sai is a jungle mismatch. It is a jungle matchup that we see heavily go in the advantage of Rek'Sai, especially if you have lane pressure. And remember, 15 minutes into the game, every lane was losing for KOO. How is Evelynn supposed to function and not just become effectively a moving green ward when there's just no pressure at all for KOO?
Yeah, it also brings up the question of why not Gragas this game, because
it was available too.
Yeah, Gragas is a great disengage champ. Evelynn is only really useful for engage. And you definitely want to be kiting if you are the KOO Tigers. So a huge deficit developed right now, and KOO with their 6K gold in the hole and really no way to get back into this game. I mean, basically NaJin just controlling everything. They can force face checks now onto the Baron. Really, really questionable micro play from the KOO Tigers over the course of this series.
And the previous kings of the Juggernaut, bringing it back, now back in theaters, the Juggernaut. Feels a bit like Indiana Jones 4 coming out here, Monte Cristo.
I am so glad I have never seen that movie, Papa Smithy. I heard how terrible it was, and I refused to ever watch it. I'm a happier person. I wish I could delete the Matrix sequels and the Star Wars prequels from my brain, but I can't do that. But I did avoid that one. I learned my lesson. The pain of those films drove me away from Indiana Jones 4. Perhaps it will happen with the new Star Wars movie this year. I'm going to wait a long time before seeing that. Won't be rushing to the theaters. Going to assemble a large body of opinions before I make that decision as to whether I want Star Wars ruined some more or not.
And look, you've grown to make some good decisions about the movies that you watch, but if you delete those old movies from your memory, won't that make it more likely for you to make those bad decisions?
No, it will not, because I should have just trusted in the will of the
so you're
critics
saying
in the first
you
place.
were not excited for the Star Wars Episode 1. Come on, we were all excited. There was so much hope.
Yes. No, there wasn't. There was not hope.
There was hope.
It was a dark time.
Dark time for the KOO Tigers, also here.
Yeah, very systematic destruction of every single little piece of vision for KOO.
Waiting for our Jar Jar Blinks moment.
Binks. It's not Blinks.
That's how I remember it. That's how much attention I was paying.
He's not having some problems with his eyes. I don't know what a Binks is besides just a terrible name. Makes him sound like a Muppet.
He's not coming back in the next movie, is he?
Thank God.
NaJin have a lot of control. Gorilla's caught.
He is caught right in the choke point, but he's got enough tankiness. Meanwhile, Prey actually does do some damage, but there is a brutal Azir play from Goon. Comes in. No more damage. NaJin just going to clean this up and take a Baron. No problem. Equalizer goes down onto Kuro. Kuro has to run. And now NaJin taking the Baron, and more than likely this game. This is huge for them, keeping their playoff hopes alive.
And Prey's mispositioning at the start of the season is one of the reasons KOO had a really shaky start to the season. He was playing the likes of Sivir, getting caught on trademark champions like the Sivir and Corki. Now we return to one of the most important positional comps in League of Legends. The Juggernaut, and honestly, dies with his flash up. He kind of paid for the sins of Gorilla, but he did not need to be there after the first hook and CC came down.
I'm not even sure he had time to flash, honestly, because if you see this, he's going to come in right here, try and get some damage.
Why is he
look
so
at
close?
this. He shouldn't be that close, but let's see how fast he gets popped. Actually, he just gets, no, he doesn't really even have time to flash. He gets knocked up by the Rek'Sai, too. So, not really an opportunity. Definitely should not have been positioned next to the Sand Soldiers, though. Goong taking nice advantage. Goong not even having to flash for that play. So just chaining those Azir abilities together very nicely. And this is a question we've had about Goong. He's very slow to develop new champions. Finally, we saw his Victor sort of kick into gear. And now we're seeing his Azir really get there. That was a nice mechanical play by an Azir. Very smoothly chained. Sure, Prey was in the wrong position, but Goong nailed it when it mattered.
And look, champion mastery is something Goong has gotten with a certain amount of assassins. He might struggle to pick up the new champions, but with enough practice, and it's a long season, maybe it's playing into him as playoffs loom shortly.
Okay, well, NaJin here, they have a lot of wave clear, their ability to knock down these turrets with the Sand Soldiers, and there's an equalizer. They're going to just run through the tower right now. Prey gets roasted, forces that wild growth, but it's not enough to save him. OQ with the boomerang blade from the outside of the base wall will clean it up. Wisdom wants a flank. Wisdom, you cannot flank right now. And NaJin powering forward. We've had 3 very fast games here, all sub 30 minutes. NaJin looking to take another one right now. And there just isn't any kind of counterplay. NaJin coming into this game and just dominating the laning phase.
Just dominate, like you said, but look, KOO, 3 losing lanes, and Evelynn versus Rek'Sai certainly made life difficult for themselves. It came to a point where, honestly, NaJin had to make a big mistake for the momentum to start to switch to KOO. I mean, they tried to force objectives, but they don't really have the comp to do so. They've never hit the item timings on Kog'Maw, who's now 0-3-0 and a casual 55 CS behind the Sivir. If we do see the gold, it is going to be mammoth for OQ.
Yeah, it will be. I mean, still no Blade of the Ruined King even for this Kog'Maw, so he is just absolutely shut down. And to NaJin's credit, they realize that they've been targeting the Kog'Maw in all the fights, and without that kind of advantage, like you were saying earlier about Prey's positioning, it's very strange because Prey's positioning was so excellent, perfect in the spring season.
Think of the champions, Monty. Twitch, Kog'Maw, position-based, very reliant champions, but suddenly it's really escaped for him in fits and spurts this season.
Yeah, he was looking better for a while there, but this series certainly hasn't been his forte, and now we see as NaJin starts to push onto this turret, what is going to come down here. Still the Baron buff up, pushing those up, just falls off right now, but there's still no defense for it tier 2 at the moment. There's just too much damage from NaJin, and they still have all of that dive pressure.
And KOO weren't even bluffing a contest. Both Lulu and Kog'Maw were clearing the super minions in mid. The base broken very, very early against the Juggernaut bodes well for NaJin. They can't break it a second time, but they have all the options. The playbook is completely open to NaJin to do whatever they want.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to change into the bottom side right now and have an Azir split push. Azir there with the Luden's Echo Poke, going for that item early, and they just want to clean up the lanes right now, it looks like, and then recall to spend some of this mountain of money they have acquired for themselves in the interim.
It is obscene that OQ, with a pickaxe and an Infinity Edge, I mean, Static Shiv commit as well, might actually get to the Blade of the Ruined King before Prey, who shopped and only could afford a single dagger, not even the Stinger coming through.
No, not at all. So, I mean, this NaJin team, they can be surprising, and I'm curious where this goes for the rest of the season, because we've spent 2 seasons waiting for this very talented on-paper roster from NaJin to get it together, to live up in terms of macro play to their micro prowess, to their ability to skirmish and win the laning phase. And honestly, they've done really well at snowballing their leads, and the vision control has been on point in this series. There's very little to complain about from NaJin's perspective.
I think of the things we've been calling out from NaJin. Vision control and Duke's ability to teleport. Those are 2 of the big macro problems that have plagued them all year. They've kept with the same lineup. They're trying to train those kind of macro abilities that a top team needs to be able to be competitive into the lineup. And okay, this is only just one series, but if this is the NaJin we will see in the remaining 3 series they have this season, even if they have to play against SKT and have the harder run-in, there's no way that you can count out NaJin from getting into the playoffs.
Absolutely not, or even doing well in the playoffs too. And I think that's the scariest thing when you have guys like Duke and OQ on your roster, and even Goong, who was a top 3 mid in Korea when he was peaking about a year ago. You have to be scared because at their best, this lineup is insanely talented.
Talent's the one thing they always had. Arguably, they're keeping some very impressive talent on the bench, but young players, and who knows what the lineup will look like come next year. It's taken a long time for us to be convinced about NaJin. And look, there's plenty of time for them to lose both this game and their momentum. Looks like they'll be able to get away here, but this is what NaJin does to us analysts. They make us eternally hopeful that somehow they will get it together.
So here we go. Koog is going to display some recalls. Nice ultimate, but actually one of them gets away. That means Pure is not going to die. Has to flash. So cute attempt right there. Agony's Embrace. OQ just had his recall triggered a microsecond earlier.
Peace out, said OQ, but Pure doesn't die for it. They get a summoner, but when you're 12,000 gold and 3 dragons in the whole hell, 7 turrets to 0. Grim reading for KOO Tigers fans.
And it's not too late either for Pure to get there in time. He's got Moby home guards, so easily able to slide into the dragon. Number 4 is coming up for NaJin right here. This is our first game of this series to actually go over 30 minutes. Both of the first 2 were quite one-sided, and now NaJin looking to dominate this dragon, although KOO trying to play for a turret here.
Trying to break that first turret. They don't have any. That's standing gold across the map, but they can't hope to contest this dragon. 4th dragon. Suddenly we're talking about 37 minutes and 20 seconds for that 5th dragon. And they're trying to bluff control around the Baron, but there's no fight that I can see, barring a massive mistake, that KOO can take against NaJin.
Yeah, exactly, especially with, here we go. Prey trying to poke right now, but those Sand Soldiers and the Echo doing so much. A huge equalizer onto the back line. Gorilla has to flash backwards immediately. Watch already there. He's going to get some nice knockups. And there goes Gorilla. OQ going nuts from the flank. He has a Blade of the Ruined King. Smeb has no armor. Smeb is just going to melt in the face of OQ, and that is what he's going to do. Watch still skirmishing, but here comes the flank from Duke as he just destroys the back line. And there goes Prey. There's the ace. NaJin doesn't care about the rest of this. Duke just going to waltz into the mid lane with his teleport, take the inhibitor, and then take the game. Death timer should be long enough. But look at Smeb's items. He just had a Warden's Mail against this massive damage from OQ.
I mean, OQ matched the Blade of the Ruined King with so much extra in the infantry, massively ahead of Prey. NaJin, blown away in game 1 not an hour ago, have basically turned the world on its head. OQ watches on, and NaJin start to gallop towards